Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual won NA FNCS Grand Finals this season. And of course, every single season I cover every single FNCS winner from every region. We're going to start things off with NA Central, obviously, because that's what people want to watch. Then we're going to go to EU and then watch a bunch of the other regions that absolutely no one cares about. So strap in for a very long video. Of course, to kick things off, they are landing Crime City. Now, I don't have my usual setup. I am traveling, so sorry I can't draw on the screen and all that stuff. However, you notice Peterbot ends up landing to this building up here. Cold ends up going into Crime City himself to go into the vault. Most importantly, if we click on him here, you can see he's grabbing the vault. Or not yet. He's trying to get the vault where he's going to get a bunch of the gold. And then at the same time, Ritual makes sure he lands way down further south. And he grabs himself the terrain loot from there. So obviously, big selling point of the Crime City drop spot is you kind of take this whole area that you're seeing on the map now, and you're able to grab yourself the mythic pump shotgun, which I'm sure if you watched any of them by now, you already know about it. Now, similarly, this will be the worst drone shot you've ever seen because I actually can't even move the camera, can I? Now, a low-key underrated part of the trade is the fact there's also still loads of gold here on top of that. So when you see Cold in Crime City getting a bunch of the gold to start with from the vault, you're also getting a bunch of extra on that from here. And the one thing that we learned, and you'll see throughout the majority of this video across all regions, is that gold and black markets, vending machines and mending machines were absolutely the meta this entire season. So if you watch my other videos, he currently has infinite gold, if you see in the bottom right, which is not infinite, but that basically means it's over 1,000. So Peterbot himself, without even being in Crime City, already has over 1,000 gold. So big pots are like 150 each. Medkits are 75. Playing Storm's been super important. I'm not really sure how much of that they play, to be honest with you, but yeah, you can get almost infinite heals with the amount of gold that they get generally from this drop spot. Similarly to basically everyone else, they do trade a little bit of surge off spawn with Aminished, who is off the Foxy Floodgate to the right. So a little bit of early surge. So far I've seen around like 50 to 100 damage. I don't know how much time he's actually going to spend here. Let's see. It's currently... So he's disengaged. 340 he went in. It's now 7 minutes. So let's just say 4 minutes of surge trading pretty early on to confidently get them. I would say 300-400 surge. I can't actually check right now to see specifically how much it was that they got before that, but roughly that amount early on. At the same time, Cold has been sitting on top of the mountain above the black market there, looking for tags and trading to the team to his south. I think, no, that's to the west, which is Cheese, and to Aviv for Surge. I'm going to cover a lot of the Surge trading right now in this part, but I'm going to skip a lot of this for the regions coming up because I'll tell you who they trade with and why, but you'll kind of get the idea. Everyone's just trading damage back and forth. The general strategy is just to buy a bunch of heals, and that's one of the reasons why gold is so important. Obviously, they're on top of the black market. They can buy a bunch of stuff, chuck it up here. Being uncontested in Crime City also means that they can just slap a bunch of those heals up into those areas, not waste any. Heals aren't a big factor, but they're just trading with all the teams around them early on, similar to the vast majority of teams who won their regions. Similarly, whilst they're doing this, Richie is just going and doing what every good IGL / support player should do and just get a bunch of mats for them. So Peterbot and Cold are pretty much completely capped on mats, they're capped on ammo, and at this point it's Ritual's job just to get capped on everything else. Now in a bunch of the regions we saw this split be not very advantageous for a lot of these split players because you saw them getting W-keyed by the teams around them, which was pretty funny. I'm not sure if that happened to Ritual whatsoever at all, but as it, like, who's gonna push this team? Of all teams you could leech on, it's not gonna be these guys. And similar to a lot of other teams as well, they have a point in their POI where they're just dropping all of the heals, as you can see here, just a couple in this example. So most of these teams had kind of safe havens for a bunch of the heals they found in their POIs. Queasy's team in Seaport City had a bunch. They didn't win, but this is one that came to mind because I always have stats from Queasy, I'm sure. And by the end of the time that they've done surge trading, they can all rotate back in here and grab a bunch of these heals later on. Ritual also there just used the toilet that's right next to the heals, which is very smart. Grabs them, goes through, and once this loads, I am again on my laptop on hotspot Wi-Fi, so it takes a little time. Splits and drops a bunch of stuff here as well, so that again, Cold, who's above the mountain, if he needs to, can drop down, grab a bunch of it. No team is going to come and W-key these guys, so they're relatively free to leave their loot in the open because it's Peterbot's team, obviously. And look at the Peterbot dead side. Like, this is so... this is class. So, obviously, Peterbot's team is down to the bottom left here. I can't move this unless we're playing. So, Peterbot's team is down here, you know, in Crime City. There's a team in Storm behind them. And look at the entire, like, bottom left third of this zone is entirely uncontested. There's not a single team in that bottom quarter there. And then you have all the teams around them. So for them, like, getting early surge is really important because everyone sees you on the map and everyone's going to stay away from you. Also, of course, like, this area isn't as good for surge trading because there's not many hills. Like, up north is where it mainly happened, up here and then flooded to Lone Wolf, and then down in the southeast where all of these teams were late rotating too, so then they rotate past those hills. So this area also is just kind of uncontested because there's not a really good spot to get a bunch of surge from. And then obviously all of the hills and all of the players up here where they've, I'd say mainly these are the boxcar teams and the teams from the south also, again, who have rotated up. So interesting that they basically just have like their own entire dead side as well, which actually is interesting because as you can see that Ritual is dropping a bunch of those heals up there. And in this game, this was game 8. I think I could be wrong. This maybe 7. It was one of the games on day number 2. And having all of these heals drops to Cold is funny because like he just has this team to look at, like Rise's team. And sure, like Aviv's team is deep in Storm, but they've got a bunch of early Storm Stars, but they don't really have much to get after this, because no one's rotating past them. Because of this, I do actually quite like the split that they have here later on. So they've rotated out of Crime City. Ritual and Colder to the north, still kind of trading with Aviv's team up here, who's rotated well past them. And then Peterbot's way to the south. Like, there's a bunch of teams in Floodgate trying to get, I think, a bunch of metal and reharvest the mats and get a little bit of extra loot. So he's just, like, sneaking on them. He tagged them a bunch, and now he's rotating out, and my replay cam's going crazy. So they're still, even though there's no one near them, they're still, like, finding a team and just, like, kind of milking them for surge. Similar to a lot of teams, they spend a lot of time in Storm here, so that zone is pulled past, and they've kind of let these kind of teams rotate past them, shot them in the back there. And also, if the zone pulls wherever it is, they're going to have good rotates through the Storm, because I think they have whites. We have 2 med mists on Ritual, plus the gold splashes, so you can rotate fast through the Storm. Peterbot also has gold splashes too, so they can sit here, tank a bunch of zone, and then if you get a free, and shoot people in the back as they rotate past. But also, regardless of where the zone pulls here, like, the zone pulls max distance, they can actually rotate like this all the way through the Storm, if needed. Might be a little tough to do so, though. Team lurking. What is this guy doing? Who is this? Joe Fishy. Okay, that's just a free beam. And then it should just be a free jump in on the other player who's left. Cold's already in. Yeah, and he's already dead. Don't opt to go all the way around through the Storm. No real point, as it was a max zone, and most people are already away from them, as we spotted with the dead side earlier here. So they're just running through Storm, reharvesting as they go. A lot of teams are using their gold splashes. As I say that, they use them in this moment. 5th and 6th zone rotates, max distance, are quite difficult, can be tricky, you can waste a lot of builds. So the increased movement speed of using the gold splash is always beneficial. And basically, there's no real people in front of them here, so this seems like a pretty fair rotate. Again, not max distance, but close to. Uses the gold splash early. They have so many of them, of course, from their drop spot. So, they don't need to be cheap with them whatsoever. And now they can just sprint way in front of everyone. If you're not using a gold splash and everyone's just using your bats, you're running at the same speed as them, which means they can shoot you in the back. But if you're running faster than them and you have the bats out, that can actually give you chances to keep away from them, or you can catch up to other people and pump them in the back if you're the one that's chasing. So gold splash plus bat rotate, incredibly good. Again, pretty much every team who I've seen who did well used some combination of those two during those kind of late mid-game rotates like we're seeing here. Same thing again, 8th zone rotate popped up, they insta-splashed, insta-went, didn't take a single lick of damage on that entire rotate. Zone pulls back. Interesting, there's a team going for height, and instantly they just try and chop them out here. And yeah, they must be connected a little bit. Oh my god. Team seems connected by something. I don't even know what from this POV. This big tower, maybe? If that's the case, that's kind of crazy, but starting off immediately by just chopping out a team who's connected to height is such a good idea because you're just wasting a bunch of their mats, right? Like, in order for them to reconnect somewhere, they have to try and get up. Now, I don't know if that actually works. Like, did they actually able to chop them down there? Don't think so. My replay cam, again, don't have my controller plugged in, unfortunately, so can't fly around and see. However, doing that wastes their mats, and even just by griefing them, even if you don't want to take height, it's a good idea. So, nice. Now we've got them moving front side. Again, you can see Peterbot always looking up for height. He's always just keeping his eye up. If there's an opportunity, he can go straight for it. Height team's doing a really good job of just pressuring them to try and keep them away. Now that they've kind of tarped into that front side, got into zone, everyone's kind of looking for opportunities, looking for frags, looking for picks that they can get a refresh on. And we'll see zone kind of pulls south. And still Peterbot's looking for height. So now, backside of the zone, all use splash to move fast and all just sprint up. This is like a kind of height retake you can't do unless you're kind of Peterbot. Like, if you have players like this, if you don't have players like Peterbot and Cold, which I'm sure you probably don't have them, this will never work. Now a really good job. Failed height retake. So now they attempt to go to the front side. Nice bang for Peterbot. Go to the front side, look back, because they have to then tarp across you. You can spray them out if need be and then take height yourself. So nice adjustment from Ritual to take them to the front side. Killed one of them because they knocked him straight into the box there, and then height is free. If it's a 3v2, you can easily win it and try crank up. More than likely it's going to happen. The other two will just drop down and keep pressuring it. So good job from them. Immediately now taking height. 7 elims already to this point. 10 teams left in the 10th zone. 11th zone just starting now. Good job focusing the teams in wood. They're getting chopped. Now, I want to watch what happens for the other two players. So here, Ritual dies somehow. Going up right, another team goes to take it. Unfortunately, he runs through the wall. He's 200 HP. Cold also goes down here in this particular match. Let's see. Is it a milk? Are we going to say this is a milk? Potentially not. In the backside of the zone. Peterbot and him get the refresh. Jumping up for height. Gets beamed a little bit. Tries to cone. Goes underneath. Into the backside. And 114. Can't say that's a milk. But a little overcommitted into the box. Now from here, Peterbot... Oh, I don't want to spoil it. But Peterbot frags out. This is something that's really nice. I actually remember this, watching this from the broadcast. He gets that knock there, and look how slow he is. He's the awareness that that metal wall to the right isn't his, and that his teammate's there. So now when this guy edits through, he's already aware of that. Like most people, when you get that elim, they're just going to jump straight into the box. Cones over through the floor edit. Couple more cones to give all of the space, because this guy basically can only rotate out now through Peterbot's edits. And now, if the server lag catches up, but he's just dead in the server. No, he's not already. Okay, he does manage to get out there. Still back up to height. Speed that up. He gets the elim now. Unfortunately, he doesn't get the siphon materials from it, but he gets the white HP. The big pot also then popped. And now it's just a height hold. He really has to start pressuring all the teams that are in metal there. If not, it's basically over for him. He also gets curve, which I think was the other player he maybe just either shot there or was the other player up on height. I'm not entirely sure of that. Good angles, trying to look with the pump out, see if he can take anyone. Front side held. Good right-hand peeks. Nice. That guy's white. Free kill. Jumps with the pump out. Oh, beautiful shot. Now it's a 1v3. Now this is beautiful. This is Clix's team. Alive as a full trio. Peterbot, 110 HP. He drops down, 118. Full cone. Tries to edit through the window. Higgs lost. Down. Finishes the body as well. Gets the siphon. Edits straight through. Doesn't get the medkits, but that's fine. Jumps up with a 20 bang, and then also creates 2 tiles of space here, which is beautiful. Slips down the front side. Look at the right-hand peak. Like, on the wall there, that's such a nice drop down, such a good angle. Doesn't get the wall. If he'd hit a bang there and knocked one, that would have been insane. Jumps over again. Like, I know he gets one pump there, but you could see the attempt, the angles to go over and behind into the storm, take a shot, jump back out without taking really any storm damage. So this was a second with 14 elims. Beautiful solo clutch at the end to catch them up. This was probably their better game. They won a single game outside of this as well, which was not that nice because Peterbot actually went down early, and so there wasn't anything as cool to watch. You know, there wasn't as any cool 6 solo clutches to bring out. But yeah, they did some really, really sick stuff this game. I'll go to another game as an example of kind of how they switched up their game plan to kill clicks, but haha, I lied. I'm actually doing EU, who was won by Marius, Pixie, and Vanya, landing Flooded Frogs. Now, on day 1, they were sometimes contested, sometimes not, which was kind of strange, because, in all honesty, I think it was like 1 or 2 games they were contested. I could be totally wrong. I'm not sure. Who is actually conning here? Who thinks they can fight the big dogs? It's Gubshy's team, who was, and Gripey's team, who was landing to the south. So let's see how they actually managed to fight this off spawn. Insta beam. There's a really nice split here. Let's see how we've actually got this set up. So, off the rip. To be honest, Vanya and Pixie are actually fully pinched, but they're already protecting themselves. They're fully kind of boxed in, so it doesn't matter too much. So you've got kind of Marius who's sweeping around. He ends up fragging out here, getting a bunch of the elims. Still taking time to loot. Already players starting to aggress him. It is now 1. He's playing time, which is really nice. Lovely movement there to sprint to the left, so he had a right-hand peek around that wall as the other player came in. Now the other 2 players are on the backs, 3v2. Got the laser. The laser is so grief. Okay, he's not taking it. He's just going for the AR. Prax dead. Finished. Off the rip. Free surge. Now it's a 3v1. You just have to not milk. Wait for your teammates. All run in at once. Easy peasy. That may have been like the only game they were conned. I'm not 100%. I can't get the numbers free off the rip of my head, but I don't think they didn't die off spawn once. Unless insert. I could be wrong. I could just be lying. Anyway, they went off spawn. Now, they're doing a similar strategy to Peterbot and to most of the top teams, where you have 2 people on surge bases. So Marius is back here, grabbing a bunch of loot. Pixie has got a huge surge base over here. Apparently, he's loving it, mate. He's loving it, gliding. But he's trading with this team, Potasai's team, and Vanya at this minute isn't actually in his surge base. But if I zoom out, Scroll around. He didn't build it this game. So for the most game, actually, they end up building like a massive surge base this way to trade surge with these two. Maybe because they were contested of spawn, that gave them an extra 4, 5, 600 surge, depending on how much HP those players had. So maybe they didn't feel like they needed to. But also, this was a zone that they didn't pool. So this was a zone that was relatively east. They won another game on this day, which was a Flooded Frogs. I think they won 4 of the 12 games total on EU, which is really, really impressive. 2 of those were zones in Flooded Frogs. So this is one of the ones that wasn't. So we'll see how they actually end up playing this. But for those games that they won in Flooded Frogs, they basically just sat here and traded Surge the whole time. They had a bunch of extra heals, cat mats, and obviously got good zone RNG for both of those. But that's why I want to watch this game, because, I don't want to just say, hey, they got good zones, hence why they did well. Another thing I want to mention about a lot of these teams is no one's really using the launch pads, as you can see here. Like, they didn't carry them. But wherever they were looting and they found one, they just threw it down. Because, as a lot of these players end up in Storm, which will be my full video, which should be up on Thursday on my YouTube channel. My main channel, that is. They just chuck these launch pads around. So if they're in Storm, or while they were looting, while they were trading Surge, while they were moving all the stuff around, they could just faster move into the Storm, which was really cool. Good use of an item that was basically not being used whatsoever. Then a very interesting rotation. I know I'm not really showing you the way that they're going, but notice how they're avoiding magic mosses. So they're essentially going top left, right, and all the way around. And that's honestly because this spot is such a mess. Everyone's rotating in here because there's a bunch of campfires. So if you're playing Storm, you can heal in there. There's the black market, obviously, where you can buy if you spend all your gold in there as well. And for them, they're not a team who lands on somewhere with a vault. So, they don't have the crazy amount of gold that a bunch of other teams do. So they rotate around the top here to avoid magic mosses, which is, of course, very lovely. And I think they go all the way into demons. I could be wrong if my memory is not serving me correctly here. Yep, using the gold splashes even in the mid-game to kind of get away from all of this congestion and try to get himself. Like, look how little people are in the zone in comparison to how everyone's just in the Storm. So now they've managed to get all the way to Shining Span. So because of their quick rotates, right, which is something I really cover a lot in the main channel video I'm going to put, because I cover a section on these guys at the end. But again, they made relatively fast early rotates every single time, and they're the Flooded Frogs team, so, northwest. Not obviously like full corner, but they're relatively far from this. And they got full center just by running all the way around the north and wrapping around, because that is a path that keeps you away from everyone. Everyone is fighting in Storm and congested areas and stuff, and they went all the way around that and managed to get on top of Shining Span, which in this point, when you've got like tons of Surge already, they got 300, 400, however many 100 of spawn, Pixie was trading a bunch, and now you can get into like the best spot in the zone. This game is pretty much won for you already. And by one, I mean, obviously, you're kind of through the mid-game. You don't have to deal with Storm Surge. But yeah, they're in one of the best positions from anyone in the entire game. Zone pools. Bang, look at this position too. Now, all these teams who are kind of been in Storm, or even are still in Storm, and in that congested side, are now all going to have to rotate into this area. I remember this game. I do remember where it ends up pulling. No spoilers. But let's be real. This is the freest surge for them of all time for all these teams who are rotating into this 5th zone. Now, a lot of these will end up staying in zone. Like, if I fast forward, I'd imagine a lot of these will end up along this congested side, if I remember correctly. Some are coming in here. As you can see, this is just free pickings for them in terms of damage because they got to this position so early. Less people are actually staying in Storm than I would have thought. Who's we got? Some teams are like True Lex's team is still playing it. Who's over here? Some teams going south because obviously everyone's trying to avoid the water as much as possible. But they can just tag all these teams who rotate in. Pools to this point. So let's see what they do from here. Oh, well, I was going to say, let's see what they do from here. But firstly, they have an interesting part to rotate here because all of these teams who have gone like full dead side, which isn't actually that many, they're all going to need to rotate in. So if they need even more Surge, which I'm sure they probably won't need too much, I'm sure they'll be massively above, they can just hold all these teams, potentially get some elims. Spoiler, they don't. Or I would probably, if I was them, insta-rotate and try to get into a better position. Like Camisetti's here is really good. If they rotate into this kind of dead side here, they could be chilling. Like they're 1,800 above right now, which is an insane amount. They're probably the highest Surge in the lobby, I would imagine, at this point. Maybe not, because everyone's just been Surge trading. It's hard to say who's the most, because everyone's just like full Surge trading the entire time. But they'll be pretty high, I would imagine. So they've actually marked the full edge, which means I think they're going to stay up here, or maybe just drop down and go last second and build in from the actual bridge. Right, sprint jumping straight down. So they don't actually end up staying on the bridge, which they probably could near the center, but if the zone then pulls far, they're basically dead because they have max rotate. Insta building in metal, which is really good. They're jumping in relatively late because obviously they're waiting for other teams to come in here. So building in metal straight away rather than brick gives them less chance of getting lobby focused. Obviously they get a little lobby focused, but they've created plenty of space, which means they should get in relatively easy. And now the rest of this game is So free for them, I would imagine. Being 1600 above Surge, highly close to cap mats. Yeah, over 100 builds on average for each player. So really well set up. 7th zone, pulls max. So this is probably a tough rotate. Let's see. So for them, there's a few teams in terms of priority. They've got Cammy's team in front of them and then this team behind. So if they insta-splash, they could probably just cut and run all the way through to the side, I imagine. And the insta-splash, run with the bats. Who would have thought? So Cammy's team also runs insta to the right of them. There's no teams in front of them in zone yet. There's a couple like in that area. And they can just ramp up over all of these old builds, jump over. I would be surprised if they took... I was going to say if they took any damage whatsoever, but I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to curse them in this moment. Because they got Cammy's team ramping them to the right. Little tarp in, and now they're already in zone. 0 damage taken throughout the entire team because they went so early. Splashed, used the bats. All 3 players are scouting before 8th zone pops. Let's see what they do. So it's not that favorable. Pulls to congestion, and there's a lot of teams in front of them. So I want to see how they time this. If they splash and insta-go, they could be fine. But from Vanya's perspective, he's watching. I think this is Cammy's team who's just rotated in front of them. And then kind of cut in through the center. So that's a nice little dead side rotate that Cammy made. But then they can't kind of go instantly because there's so many teams in front of them. So they splash, jump, and they'll probably have to commit a little bit of mats. Maybe not. I think a lot of the teams are maybe down actually on the hill. I was just looking at the map. A lot of teams might be below. So good jump from them to notice that no one's sitting playing height, so they can just ramp straight up on top of it and claim it from here. And this was kind of basically what they did in, I think, all of the 4 wins. I could be wrong. There might have been a height retake, but just from memory, I think in those 4 wins, they claimed height basically at like early. So in this 9th zone here, and then held it for the vast majority of that. I think maybe there was one they did a zone... No, there's one they did a zone retake. I take that back. But at least like 3 of those 4 wins, they just took height in like 8th, 9th zone, and then just held it for the rest of the game. And they wouldn't be able to do that unless they were able to like capture... What am I talking about? Get as many mats consistently through the mid game. Like, they've not even got refreshes at this point, but because they've had really good rotates and not wasted much, then they can probably hold it for the vast majority of this end game. Also really like this, that they've kind of pre-ramped into the next zone. So I imagine for a couple of reasons here, other teams can't ramp up into you from that perspective, which is really good. Plus, if it pulls max, you've got hard materials already pre-built that direction. If I can move around, let's kind of see what it looks like. So it's kind of like a massive ramp off in that different direction there. And then that's where they ramped up in entirely metal. Pulls back, which is extremely favorable to them because they're obviously on height, and a lot of players are also underneath. Vanya makes a bunch of hard builds there. So again, that's going to stop people ramping up underneath them on front side. So, but also just pre-tarps ahead of them. So trying to build into Storm as much as physically possible keeps you ahead, gets your build harder, faster. Bit of a weird way to word that. But yeah, good play from them. They're also elevating extremely high here. So if you've all got bats or mobility, that's fine because you can like jump off and not die, which is great. And also really nice awareness there to notice that they were being chopped. Now, they actually weren't held up by much at the bottom of this base. So as all that shooting starts, very, very good awareness from Vanya just to immediately go down and jump. So from here, big tarp into the middle, super connected. The 2 cones, rather than building a single, gives it less angles for you to be shot from completely. So they're also just going through the center. It also means it's difficult for players to come up from underneath you. So you need to make sure you're scouting properly underneath if you're going to do this. Because obviously there's more area to cover. But yeah. Nice also recognition there. So in the first moving zone, you have to tarp for such a long time. And as you noticed from the previous game with Peterbot, other teams are just looking up and trying to spray you immediately out. So you have to connect at a certain, like relatively early into that, or you're just going to get chopped. For Vanya here, taking a little bit of Storm to go deeper in and connect to this pylon is fantastic, because then again, they're not going to get chopped. And because they're so high, it's really hard to drop and connect back up. You're going to waste a bunch of mats. So really good awareness. Vanya scouting ahead to the next zone to see where it pulls. Right now, they're kind of down to wood only. I don't think they have any hard mats. And at this point, this is when Pixie starts getting onto the walls. So the thing is, if you've got wood on height, everyone's just going to sit and spray you. So this is a really good time to just start dropping and looking for some refreshes. And also, I doubt Vanya is still as high. Is he still playing as high? I think he is playing that like same level of height up there. Yeah, he's connecting up to the old builds and stuff. So by sending Pixie and Marius down that early, whilst they still have like 20, 30 builds each, even though it's all wood, that means they're able to look for refreshes and also bots other people. Like, if they start fighting other people in their lair, they're going to build more, they're going to tarp more, which means there's more stuff for you to connect from. And if you kill them, obviously, then you're going to have more mats that you can bring up to your tarper, who can keep situated himself on height. So, like, really nice timing. Unfortunately, Queasy gets pooed on a little there. To jump down and obviously to make sure your team is still alive. crazy find by Pixie. Some random body who has capped brick is absolutely insane. That's probably just won them the game here to start with. So really nice connection up above. Drops all the hard mats. At this point, top 6, like they've done their due diligence. I imagine Vanya has all the whites because he's going to play heal off now. He's basically got capped hards in the final moving zone, so they can play heal off. So at this point is about Pixie and Maris. Yeah, Maris is going to pop off to drop down. It's on them to basically go down, frag out, and try not milk. If they die, bad. All right, it's now time then to drop. Final moving zone, 50 seconds left. You don't want to die here. Worst thing you can possibly do because you've got heal off already situated up above. Playing together very nicely. Nice safe angles from Marius in the right hands. Deal as much damage as possible. Panzer jumps into the face. Banged. 26 out. I like that Marius plays slow. You can tank Storm. No reason not to because you're going to get the Siphon. Jumps down, gets Chino. Grabs a bit more whites. There's a whole pile of loot in there. I remember this, actually. This is so nice. Now they got extra mats. Spamming cones on the floor. Getting all the connection. Big bang onto Kiro. Gets the body knock. I don't know if you really should finish that other player there. I'll be honest. And then they just win because someone else is healing in the back zone. So beautiful, beautiful game for them. 14 elim win. Set them up nicely. The early rotates that they did kind of countered the Storm playing that vast majority of other players already did. And this will be a big part of my main channel video, as I can't remember if I mentioned that already. I think I already did. So check that out. My main channel should be out this week before the new season. On to the next region. Let's move on to Asia now. These guys are little goats. They won 4 games, very similar to the way that Vanya's team on EU won 4. So a lot of teams dominate in their regions. The match history is looking crazy. They're day 2. They won all 4 of their games on day 2. Like the 4 wins they got was all on day 2, that's really, really impressive. So first game and then 3 in a row. Let's watch the third one, 14 elims, and let's see how they play this one out. All right, so sorry, I don't know your names whatsoever. Let me find them before I start this, because I doubt it's just called Mongrel. All right, so I found them. It is Raz, who's on the Lynx, who should be Lynx Mongrel. Age, Reto, I think it's pronounced Reto, could be wrong. And Kim Kana, who's Kim Kana in-game. So, congrats to them. I'll probably say their names wrong throughout this entire time. Apologize. Now, they are landing Masked Meadows. Now, they said they were going to Black Market the whole time, but someone already is landing there and grabbing the drum gun, I presume. So I doubt they're going to be the drum gun team. But again, similar to Crime City, big selling point of Masked Meadows is the fact that you get all the gold, which allows you to get all the heals later on. All right, straight away, there's a difference in the way that they're playing this, because for Doxy, who came second on EU, and most of the EU teams go straight to the Black Market, but for them, they're going straight south. And are they fighting? Not fighting, but maybe potentially trading Surge with this team, whoever is south of them. No, insta-dipping from Kim Kana. Okay, maybe not. I do like how just ramping like this has just become the meta. It's so funny. It's like it's so much more simple than just like ramping up and, you know, like doing all the ramp brushes. Instead, it's just a bunch of brick. Okay, scan down. If you've ever landed at Masked Meadows and have gone into this bunker, you'll know people crouch. They love to hide in here. So really good awareness just to, rather than just jumping straight in and risking your whole grand finals, grab a scanner, scan everyone below just to make sure it's safe. No one's sitting in there. Then they can use the gold to get absolutely juiced. What we buying, boys? What we getting? Pumps, unsurprisingly. Bunch of bigs, so kind of similar to most regions. Probably going to trade Surge. Buy a bunch of bigs. They're going to drop them up on the tower that is being built up above. And then they have infinite heals. Because of all the gold. Again, very similar to most regions. Now, what is interesting about this, though, is how long are we into the game? We're in the second zone. And Asia has clearly not caught on to the surge trading that every other region has. Because on EU, you had Queasy team, who's Seaport. At this point, way deep onto this hill, who were able to trade tags here. You had the Shining team on this hill to the right. You would have what would the equivalent be of this Mames team, which ended up being taken on day 2, up on this hill. These guys weren't looking for Surge on this hill because no one rotated past here, and they had pushed up to this hill here instead, up at the top. And then so, from Ferdoxy's position on EU, which was the same team in the same drop spawn here, they were able to trade with so many different people. However, Kimka's team really doesn't have that many options at this moment. We'll see if those teams get into those positions later, but they have this team's POVs, which is like This team was good, by the way. I think this is the second place team. Like, camping down a rock. I think this is the second place team, actually, overall. Let me check. Yeah, this is the team who actually ended up coming second, and they're camping on a rock behind them. Like, obviously, they were looking to go for a sneak play and trying to, like, if they reharvest on this brick. Like, the idea here is actually really good, right? Like, because you build this massive big tower, you need to go reharvest all the brick. So I'm guessing they're just camping on it, waiting for someone to come reharvest it and get insta-killed. But if the person who's on top of this tower is somewhat aware, because they're going to need to start looking for tags at some point, they're not up there yet, then surely these guys just get spotted out. You actually can't see them. Did you see that? Looking through the code in there, you actually couldn't see him from that angle. They're all now moving in. Oh, the insta-padded. Really smart. Okay, that's actually quite a smart play, because that pad takes them to, like, the perfect height to get them up onto that surge tower. I don't know how planned that was in terms of, like, the height of it being perfect to get you up. But if you just dived on a single player there, that could have been cool. Didn't work out, but oh well. All right, apologies. Had some technical issues yesterday, so I am back today recording the second half. I'll be honest, I can't exactly remember where I was, but I remember those guys were hiding on that rock, and they W-keyed, and it didn't work. The map now, later on into this game, still very, very different from, like I mentioned, on the other regions already. No one on the Seaport Hill, no one pushing up here, team's not here. Not a huge amount of, like, surge trading going back and forth, kind of similar to, or the opposite of the big regions. Right, they did pull island near them, so they ended up rotating up onto the island, and I'm not sure if they've actually claimed, they have actually claimed the island, yes. So they have Mythic AR, and still an absolutely insane loadout. Now from here, this is a really sick position, because obviously, as we mentioned from most of the other regions and things like that, and my main channel video, which will be out, players are playing Storm a ton, and just staying up on island here also gives them tags onto all these players. They can tag anyone who rotates in the back, which there obviously isn't actually that many teams, unfortunately, for them to shoot there. But also, if they pull that zone back, they can get an island zone, and they're carrying white. So, you know, Kimkana has the 2 med mists, grenades, and there's also Chug in there and some slap splashes. So similar, I imagine Kimkana is the one who's going to be tarping and leading, because that kind of loadout is what everyone has. Usually the person who is tarping in the IGL was the one who carries the vast majority of the white heals. TBC will come to that in the end game. They've had an absolutely max distance rotate, not that far above the Storm Surge, so 400 above. I would think if they're on a bigger region, they'd probably be below, to be honest, because of, I think the amount of damage they would have gotten here just wouldn't have made it on EU, I'll be honest. But beautiful rotate. So playing the Storm later on, kind of similar to what we've seen a lot of the bigger teams on some of the better regions do, wrapping all the way around the south and coming into what will be the dead side here. You know, you see a single player there. There's another single player here as well. Like, not many players in front of them, so then they have free rotates to pretty much anywhere else. And again, this is something we saw some of the best and biggest teams do on pretty much all regions if they decided to play Storm later, rather than tagging it in, like, the 3rd to the 6th zones. Now the zone pulls back, and again, like, this is super free. They can wait for it to open up and go into this dead side. They can go straight in. Pretty much irrespective of where it pulls, they have a pretty good rotate here. They just... Yeah, so basically they just white line their way in, and now, kind of unsurprisingly, as we mentioned through the rest of the game, they're now 270 below. So Storm Surge strategies so far haven't been great, and I imagine they might just go straight above immediately just by beaming that one player there. Splashes come out, now they've got the knock, they can go over the body, they're 150 below. This is the time where box fighting, you know, they really just have to start getting in. They need to finish, they need a bunch of elims onto the other player, and my internet has just... There you go, they've carried the box, body out already, almost dies in there, almost wastes everything into their box. And they are able to actually recover this game and win it, even with like a Roughnecks rotate too. So this is an impressive game to kind of come back from here. What kind of heals the rest of the inventory got? So they still have bigs and minis, and it's not totally over, but all the white heals are gone, all the splashes are gone too. So all those kind of fast rotates that we saw Vanya's team, Peterbot's team do in the bigger regions, like, now not necessarily as able to do this, and they're still just above the threshold for Storm Surge. So choosing a high layer to get into here, staggering, pausing, waiting, need to go all the way down. And at this point, players probably will rotate past them, and they can shoot them in the back for some surge. So yeah, spraying onto this player's boxes. Other people will jump down. So a nice little strategy to stay back. Good line of sight, cutting off. Ideally, I'd like to see them stay on a high layer. And they stay a relatively high layer in case it starts to pull back up. Brick team right next to them, they might need to fight. Somehow they've just immediately gotten 400 or 500 above surge. I may have missed that. Maybe we've seen a crazy beam. Potentially, I think a team above them would have died. Yeah, fake surge. So now they're only 180 above again. On the threshold, so they really need to make sure they get active here. Another max distance zone, only 100 above, 42 moving, which is insanely stacked. Insta-edit, insta-rotate yet again, which is really nice. Not so careful on that cone. Could have been a player in it and easily got pumped. Little stagger to stop. Now that they're front side. This could be a good angle to sit and spray players. So they've basically gone front, staggered, waited. And they're not that much above surge, and they still need to worry about it for like another 8 players left. So now they can spend the time to like shoot, go for players, tag them, fight them, anyone on rotate. And then they shouldn't have to worry about surge after that if they do this correctly. Alright, Matt's also looking a little shambles here. 45 builds. Sprint through the old builds. Nice little passage. Cut off line of sight from everyone around. Layering out next to someone, elevating up so that they're not getting their floors pieced from the players next to them, which is really good. Alright, we have now, at this point, 9th zone. Mid-game's been shambles. They've sorted out their surge. They've managed to get themselves above. But they have like 40 builds combined as a trio. So now they need to actually start getting active, start to do something, get a refresh that's going to allow them to win the game. Because they do win this game. So this is really impressive to come back from. That team beside them's just edited. Yep, all-time jump in as a full trio. Pre-edit play, lovely. Managed to pick a 1. That's 2 down. Lovely aim from Kimkana as well there. Managed to go down. So that's the full trio. Didn't actually get that much out of it, though. We got up to maybe 100 plus builds out of that. So it's not like the finest of refreshes of all time, but for 2, maybe potentially 3 bodies, that's still not bad. Now Kimkana does a good job getting them to the front side. Nice little reverse ramp. This is something that a lot of players are really bad at, me included. Like, they're good at using the reverse ramps to slide down. Say if you're from height, you just jump, slide down. I'm still bad at rotating for that, but just to like change layers down, I've not really seen many teams actually able to do that consistently. Nice little piece. Okay, that's the body in, throwing the body back as well to make sure they get their loot from that. 11, 43, very minimal mats. I love how Mongrel, sorry I forgot who the actual player's name this is, has taken over and I've done that, looking up for height. Scuffed game so far. This has been a really scuffed game. And somehow they have height. I'll be honest, guys. On a bigger region, you ain't taking height there. Like, that is not a game where you're winning height from that moment. How we got 3 builds, 4 builds, 17. Split some mats, my friend. Split some mats for the boys. Nice. Loot in the zone. Couple builds across. Nice other little spray onto the other team, pressuring. More reversed ramps. Sticking to the very edge so they have the maximum amount of angles. But yeah, I think if you're in a bigger region, do you win this game? I think you just honestly die to Sturge. Oh, someone going up for height with a bat. Is that a solo going up for height? Okay, just mantling up. The guy drops off. A solo going for height there is absolutely crazy, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, he insta-dies. I think they managed to get the good chug, but it's only got 10 uses, so maybe not. Got a little bit more mats from this. Relatively dead game as well. 10 up going into final moving with only 10 up. Like, this is a pretty dead game. There was a lot of games on EU and NA that had like, there was one I think that had like 26 people going into the final moving zone, which was absolutely insane, like a crazy level of stacker. So a lot of people in this game had like a rough mid game, and obviously a lot of these zones just pulled completely max everywhere. This pullback is very good for them because they have very minimal mats left. Managed to stay alive. I think it's now a 3v3. They're actually kind of getting bossed, I'll be honest. Team on low ground, more mats. Yeah, team on low ground has more mats. So let's see how they end up winning this. Mongrel jumps down with the bat, hits the swing, chucks him into storm. Nice little right hand peeks, gets the pump. All right, just everyone dies at one moment. Not that impressive a match, I will be honest. If this was on Global Championships, probably wouldn't get Island, I would imagine. Although Island wasn't hotly contested by the best players. Definitely would have died to Surge before that. And almost definitely wouldn't have been able to claim height either. So it's not the... You know, it wasn't the highest quality of lobby, I would say, that was in this one. Let's move over to... What region? Brazil. Let's check out Brazil next, I think. Alright, Brazil was won by Tisco, Striker, and Kadu, which is interesting because they landed at Canyon Crossing, which is not a drop spot. I don't know if there's any other regions that won from here, but we did have a good few teams that was playing from here on bigger regions. I've totally blanked, it wasn't EU, but I think they were top 10-ish. That was good. And the split here is interesting because they're taking a huge split. You've got Tisco and Kadu in Canyon itself. Then you have Striker way up to the north. There's like a few chests around this area. There's some on the actual Wolf Hill itself. And one of the main benefits of dropping in this side is mainly the actual Wolf Head Hill itself, where if you pull a zone in this area, being up there is just free surge. And especially if it pulls way later into there, it's just so good. One thing I will say this, as someone who lands at Canyon Crossing in solos, the loot for like 2 people is questionable, I would say. There's enough chests, but I swear I never come out there with like enough stuff. This jewelry shop in here is really important though, because they get guaranteed gold. And again, I've already mentioned in this video a lot about how good gold is. We'll see how they actually end up using it, but it seems like Kado and Tisco immediately off the rip are just looking for tags onto the Solitude teams, the teams who are rotating down there. How many is there? There's actually only one, so like they're kind of trading with this team. I'm not sure why no one is in Solitude though. And Shogun's like, what are these teams doing? How are they not in the POI themselves? So I'm checking earlier. Seems like this team is landing triple stack on the hill. And I don't know why. Why is this? Why are you guys triple landing on the hill? And then padding into Shoguns? I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to check through all the games because, again, my internet here is really, really bad. But, I mean, that's kind of free surge for Kado and Tisco off the rip. This is very strange, though. Interesting that Striker is ended up being so split. Like, this drop is very unforgiving. You know, you've got PhZine and King and all that above them and Phaser in Crime City. And obviously he can kind of tell because they've got the medallions, so able to know if they're keying him or not. But, like, this split, you leave Striker very, very, very susceptible to be W-keyed. So, you know, I would have a feeling that a team could easily just create a strategy in another game just to 3v1 him, insta-kill him. There's a team rotated in looking to fight them. The Shogun's still totally ungone, by the way. Unaware that he's so split. Nice little beam. Ooh, I think they might be going for the key. I think it's because they cracked him for, you know, only 50 damage. Playing things slow. Seeing the other teammates have got together. Disengages out north, which is interesting. I guess because he can get back up the hill this way. Or into a bush. Very nice, okay. Waiting for his teammates to catch up as well. Right, kind of unsurprisingly, they have managed to build a massive hill. You guess, a massive base, you guess where? On top of the Wolf Head Hill. Now they're obviously kind of pulling out here. There you go. My drone skills are not at their best without my controller, but pushing more towards a bunch of the other teams are. Right now, you do have a team set up in Crime City, which is Phaser's team still, and honestly, not that many other teams around here. I feel like they may struggle for early surge. Obviously, like I said, they got some on Canyon, some of that random team who's not going Shoguns for some reason, who's still not in Shoguns, just to double check. However, if the zone pulls him later, they're just getting free damage. Again, similarly, dropped all the mats to... Who is it? Tisco's going to stay up here. He's got the best AR. And Striker and Kado are probably going to drop and just re-harvest as much as possible. I imagine Striker is just re-harvesting. Yeah, grabbing all the wood. Also, this is potentially where the gold is. As we mentioned, you can get the gold from the jewelry shop. And down here, there is a mending machine. Now, I've not seen a huge amount of usage of this. Someone's already bought out a big pot there. So he's bought out another one. So that's 150 of the gold. So they still have a bunch left. So he probably should have dropped, I'll be honest, more of the heals, like another inventory slot. So he could have 6 bigs if he has enough gold, unless you're going to use it later, and drop them up there. But you also might want to use it for medkits later too. I actually use this in solos. This is a really good little spot. Grab the gold, play Storm, medkits here. Bob's your uncle, you're chilling. For him, he's like, they're really not afraid of pushing far out from each other. And like, you know, Striker's been split like this entire time through the whole game. I, again, think it's very easy to be taken advantage of if you manage to do that, I'll be honest. But with the south zone, this hill, they should be able to tag every single player coming in from the north. Tisco is also watching him at this time, so obviously he's really split, so he's up here actually trying to pay attention to make sure no one sneaks on him, but you never really know if there's like a full trio sitting in a bush or something like that. Yeah, now here, they're, as I mentioned, easily able to farm the tags from the players who are coming down from the north. Great positioning, as I mentioned, for the zone. Phaser rotating in. All the other teams are going to have to, so I would be surprised if they're below in surge. It's slightly strange that Kado's still such low mats, because Striker refarmed all of the ones back up, but he's given it to Tisco, so only 2 of them have a lot of mats now, which is slightly strange. We'll see how that impacts the rest of their game. Interesting that they gave up the hill up to the north right to go to this one, may potentially not getting enough tags. Because in all honesty, like if you look at the map, it's 4th zone and people still haven't actually rotated in yet. So they ended up moving down to get tags off these people. And to get the extra mats we talked about, Striker split his to Kadu and now is back in Canyon reharvesting. This building in here, which is the jewelry shop, is actually all made of metal. Pretty much all of the walls are entirely metal, so you can get capped like almost instantly from it. But this is crazy congestion. Like, this is one of the most insane... That's actually probably a good thumbnail for me, for my main channel video. Look at the amount of people who are outside of Storm in comparison. There's 1, 2, 3, 4... I mean, there's, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4... 4 teams in the next zone. Well, maybe 5 because 2 teams fighting. Like, another 3 teams on top of that outside of that. And everyone else in Storm. That's nuts. Now, because of that, 6th zone has pulled south. And look, not a single team is in that. And almost every single team is on the hill right now. Right next to them. So they end up actually getting into a bit of a scrap here. So let's see how they end up dealing with that. They got cracked. They're getting full W keyed by a team who's potentially below Sarge. I love that he just sat and held down the angle there. He's actually underneath. Sorry, he's not on top of the mountain. He's underneath as they get keyed here. He's dead. Oh, okay. Striker goes down. The whole team... Look at the HP of the teammates. 10 HP and 8 HP. So they got to win their ones. Let me go back and see what happens from there. Well, it just lags, so I won't be able to see anything. He gets the first knock. Striker's down. Kadu. Oh my god, they're whiffing so bad. Right-hand peek. Lovely wall hold. Lovely window. Waits for his teammate. Plays the right hands in the window so well. Nice edit selection from Kadu. That guy tries just to get out of there. He's gone. He's gone. Okay. I don't know if we managed to get all of the... They got 2... Yeah, they got 2 of the elims there. Cat mats. Enough surge. They're now 715 above. I don't know if they have whites for this. They've just popped the 1 med mist. That might be their only med mist grenade, which means they're probably going to have to rotate relatively quickly because it's now a 2-tick zone. They do have splashes. They can get out of this relatively easily if they need to, though. But now no bat. Oh, no, they've got some med mist grenades. So they could play Storm here if they want. I don't know how much Storm damage they've taken up until this point. But if they need to, they could avoid all that congestion. Man, this is always awkward as hell to get out of these kind of situations too. If you're just being held from a full team in front of you, and if that team needs surge, it's just over. Good job just committing mats. Now they're entirely stacked. Like, they're just cap. Maybe not cap, actually. Maybe Kadu is. But Tisco and Striker using a little bit of the mats to get in. Not risking getting lobby focused. The worst thing in these kind of lobbies you can do is, like, if you get tagged or cracked, the whole lobby's just going to spray you. So... You know, in these kind of zones, just committing the materials early means that you don't get shot first, which means that you don't start that kind of chain reaction of players shooting you over and over and over. So the early committing of mats, super nice. Again, opt to go for the early slap splash or gold splash. I keep calling it slap splashes. And just sprint up the hill. I don't think all 3 of them have bats. They don't. Kadu does not have a bat, so they're going to have to stagger and wait for him to catch up. They can't go too far ahead. Again, another splash. It's very, very similar to all of the other regions we've seen so far, using and committing splashes during the partials in the mid-game. I like the staying up here, you know, not dropping all the way down, because if this pulls back, they're just dead. Let's see where the 8th zone ends up popping and pulling here. What do we have? Pulls to them, so I'm going to skip. Team Archetype appears to be Striker, is the Tarper, IGL, zone pulls max distance on a high layer, insta go for the spray. Now, wait, they don't all have bats, do they? Yeah, they don't all have bats, so we're going to see a swing for Kadu to go front side. Sprint after him. He's into Storm. I wonder if he's going to start claiming. Starts claiming enough space in the Storm, which is really nice, so then the Striker and Tisco can kind of catch up. They already have that space claimed. Most of the rotate already done. They probably should start to elevate now, yeah, and Striker's done a good job acknowledging the hills go up, so a little bit of pre-planning here. Sticking super close together. These, like, scuffed zones are so rough, and I like how Kadu and Tisco are looking backwards here, you see? So as they're walking up the ramps backwards, they're not just following, they're trying to scout, make sure no one's like sneaking behind them. So that's why they were able to leave that full one side open, which is really nice again, because now we've saved a bunch of materials tarping in here. Now that they're into that next zone, Striker can go back and look and try to cut anyone off who's trying to drop onto them. He will need hard mat split, but most of the teams don't have much. The teammates don't really have anything actually to give him hard mats wise. Rough zone if it pulls north, which it absolutely does. So how do they get up here? Because this pulls up the mountain. Nice wrap. So here, if I zoom down all the way in, obviously the zone pulled from east to west. So all the teams, as you can see, are kind of clustered on the right side. So by going front side here and wrapping around, that's like dead side in front of them. So just going with a bat to get away is nice. Hopefully this dead body's going to have a bat, doesn't has gloves. The striker can keep up in the front. Not the best tank, because he's ended up tanking a ton of whites. Not for much benefit, like if he'd white land. And Kadu ends up getting knocked to the storm because he doesn't have that bat and he was trying to follow there. So potentially not the best pathing, but again, because of the double res and now the metal that's on low ground, you can insta get him back up. By the way, the med mist does not heal your knocked teammates, as I think Tayson found out in EU. Chucking another med mist in front of the zone so we can get the white caught up. Doesn't need to replenish any shields because he's died to storm. I'm just going to watch from Kadu's perspective because he ends up fragging out here a little bit in the end game. All three of them end up going to the front. Nice little backside. Doesn't replace the wall. It's a bit of a waste of time, so just pickaxes through and goes for the shot. Unfortunately, it does not hit and connect with anything. Goes for the spray down with that broken minigun, trying to chop everything. Not minigun, drum gun, trying to chop everyone out. The distance they're keeping together is really nice. Always playing on the same box, especially when you're in, like, wood. You know, you can see that all three of them are looking in, like, similar angles. They're all trying to block off the same spot. If someone gets dropped down, all three of them will be shooting. And this is kind of like the teamwork that kind of separates a lot of the top players in the region. Because then, if you make a bad play, you do something that's not potentially ideal, it doesn't really matter because you have three players who are all going to be able to, like, fix the problem if someone jumps in. So, very nice from them there. Low ground playstyle. Height team, just dropping them down. A lot of those guys look very lost who are falling on top of it. Kadu finally gets the bat. And those height teams are up on wood, so should be relatively free sprays. However, of course, it is in the final moving zone. It's now a 3v2. Phaser goes down, so that's King's team that's up there. Jumps up the front. Don't know what's happening there, I'll be honest. Relatively nice game. Good layering, I would say, from Strikers tarping. Very nice layering and positioning. Storm tanks, not the greatest. Storm surge strategy, not also the finest, with not that many teams surrounding them. But kind of similar. It's a smaller region, so I am more concerned about how these guys are going to deal with Surge come global championships now that obviously they've qualified too. Unfortunately, I forgot NA West existed, so now I have to look at that. But the guys who won, which is Ark, Marine Game Win, I doubt that's his real name, and Salco, got 98 elims. So on the region, they were like, if you look at second place team, Backup Powers and Pump, 49, 69, 40, blah, 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 blah. They were way above everyone else. So I want to see how they frag, more importantly, because we know on NA West, we're not going to be getting the highest quality of gameplay in terms of rotates and surge. Let's be real. 25! All right, so really what they actually did, 50, a bunch of double-digit elim games. It was really good. Let's watch the highest 15 elim game, and let's see how they frag out then. Slightly disappointed now they've not dropped 225 bombs. All right, so it seems like these guys are Shiny Shaft's team, actually landing contested by, or a team who's cut off them to the south, which is Velo's team here. Interesting. They've actually pushed all the way over to Lone Wolf Lair, and we're camping there. Got a nice beam to start things off. Insta runs down the back, sprints down. I don't know what this guy's. Oh, he's trying to get into the toilet and escape. Okay, so they get an easy kill off the rip, which is some good surge. And now they've basically claimed Lone Wolf Lair for themselves. So they've taken the surge strat of another team, because a lot of the people who were landing shiny, their strats were like iDrop's team on EU, for example, was just W keying all the contested teams around. So for them, this is interesting. They've keyed the team that's here, knocked them out, and taken their surge position. And then on this north zone, like, this is a really, really good spot. All the teams are coming south, able to get up. Usually, again, this player here would be trading with the Flooded Frogs team, which does not seem to be happening in this instance. They've not really got the same setup. Again, smaller region, so not quite the exact same caliber of surge strats, but it's roughly the same as what we were seeing on some of the bigger regions. Up until this point, only a single elim. We're just about to get into the 6th zone now. So they're not that high above surge, so only 30 above at this minute. So despite the fact they've played the full game out, only 30 above. It seemed to get keyed in the backside of Storm. They have pulled a nice, lucky 7th zone, though. But managed to get into the safe circle. Heal goes down. Double blob. Rather than using a med mist, which is interesting, so they're saving those med mists for later. 125 above here, this team fighting, or potentially getting tagged. What are these players doing? He's had 2 dudes in that box who are just sprinting into walls. Alright, basically just tarped the entire way through this zone so far, which I will skip. Now on low ground, doing a really nice airplane strat. So you see they're covering 2 boxes, gives them tons of space to fight from. Nice. They are really aggressive in the pre-edits. Like, so far I think 3 or 4 of their elims just straight up have just been pre-edits. So when you're on low ground doing what we call the airplane strat, claiming so much landing space for yourself there, just cones and walls all the way around, you can see now how from Ark and Salco's perspective backside, you have so much room to play when you're cutting off space that other teams won't be able to take. This is really nice. Doesn't seem like any attempt to take in height. I don't think they won any games. I could be wrong. Maybe they won one. They had a lot of like seconds and thirds, so I'm presuming throughout the rest of the game they're a very low ground focused team. Nice little wall take there as well. So yeah, I don't expect these guys to be high ground warriors. Just trying to kill them low. So they're going to have a lot of... ooh, nice. Beautiful pre-edit plays down straight as well. This is actually probably the most impressive of the smaller regions that I've looked at so far, which has been 3. We'll see if OCE and Middle East manage to get it up, but they're looking like a nice endgame team. Like, their endgames look really solid so far. We'll see how if they manage to get any, you know, because Surge is obviously a massive factor coming global championships, but nice bang. Now it's just down to a duo left. Ark has heal off, like, absolutely secured. So all they need to do is basically tarp a little bit frontside, get him into the, you know, alive for the next minute, and then he wins the game, but they don't. Spoiler, he doesn't end up actually winning this match. Why are you running into Storm? Okay. Taking a couple unnecessary ticks. Some face players off their lair. Nice. Beautiful little peanut butter right up on the low ground. A couple more matches to keep them going, but now they've let a team get in front of them. So, Salco ends up going fighting. So this is good. They kind of secure the second place. They're third. There's a full trio and a duo, and then them as well. So nice. Really good shot from Salco. Ooh, good shot until the one he can... No, that's a bit of a milk. He re-edited there, which allowed the other player to get through, whereas he'd already pumped him. He had the siphon on this side, so a little bit trigger happy there. But he goes down, and now it should just be Ark playing the second place all the way down, because he has so much heal off here. He can literally just sit, play this all the way out, guarantee a second place, and then hope for his best to get first. Player up on height potentially sees him. He jumps back. Ooh, okay. Is this a milk? Is this a... No. So now it's a 1v2. Gets around the other side. Oh, nice left-hand peek, but dies, unfortunately. There. Nice shot from him. I would say, so far, their pre-edits are really, really good. So, the one thing that most of the best teams in the world have is that they're instantly able to put a good pre-edit on. Like, from EU, I think Malabuka, Ping, and Walks was probably the best example, where Malabuka would tarp straight to front side, and before even looking for anyone, he would instantly put a pre-edit on, and then as the team starts to look for someone, if you find an opportunity, you've already got the pre-edit on and you're ready to go. These guys also similarly look good to have the bunch of pre's. Like in trios, that's basically like just the easiest way to get refreshes total. So excited, even though you're, you know, but anyway, so you're going against not so good players. But generally, I think this was a much better game than the Brazil and the Asia teams so far. Again, only one game from each team. So let's move on to Middle East. All right, in Middle East, we have Hero, FKS, and I've totally forgotten how to pronounce the 5s in Arabic. Can't remember how that this guy's name is pronounced. I apologize. It's not 5 Ald, but I've forgotten. Their match history was really interesting. They had one game that was out the top 10 only, which was this second place here. And then everything else was like 5th, 7th, 7th, 5th, 3rd, 9th, 4th, 2nd, 5th, a 1st, a 3rd. So they had like a very, very consistent game plan, clearly. However, they weren't like doing anything flashy. Like their elims weren't really high either, outside of these 2 games on the first day. So let's watch this match here, the best one, because actually no, maybe let's not watch. Let's watch like the 3rd with 11 elims instead, because something will go wrong here. Let's see what it is. The game plan then seems very, very similar to what Clix's was prior to actual grand finals, which is to push into the black magic mosses and black market. So rather than sitting Lone Wolf Lair and trading Surge, you see FKS has the scanner, so you can check if anyone's actually inside of the vault. Push up and imagine they're going to go... Well, I'm not actually sure what specifically they're going to go for in there, but you can tell they're going to go for it at some point. Potentially for the splashes, which is more than likely. However, other teams kept taking them on other regions, so I'm not entirely sure if that's already happened yet. But they are also set up in this quite interesting position. Where is this? Because for this zone, this is actually a pretty good spot, right? Because you can see heroes set up in a surge base here. Obviously, like I said, they want to get into the black market. There's already a team in there. There will be a lot of teams that will late rotate in behind them. How stacked is this? Relatively stacked. A couple of teams didn't actually even make it into this game. So from this position, pretty good, given if you've watched my zone priority video, you know, obviously people get to the edge, they'll spray them. However, it's a little difficult in Grands because everyone ends up just staying in Storm so long. So I don't really know what they'll manage to get. They are seems to be trading at the minute with someone in boxcars. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange spot because a lot of players who play Storm ends up kind of wrapping in this zone, for example, would wrap around the north, kind of what we saw in Vanya's game before. So I actually don't know how many teams they would end up holding here. I don't think it would end up being that much. It's now like 5 minutes later, 4 minutes later, something like that. The zone has continued to pull. They've stayed in this position, trying to trade surge with teams near them, waiting for the teams at Magic Mosses to leave the black market, and now it is time to go in and try and grab what they can. Scanner goes down. There is actually no one in there, which, of course, I can see, because I have the replays and they do not. So let's see what they actually want to buy in here. It is the splashes, unsurprisingly. We've already mentioned how good those are for rotates later on. And yes, we managed to get the Mythic AR as well. So, let's see what they leave here with. Good timings just to use a Med Mist in here that they bought as well. We at least have a full stack of splashes each. A minimum. Let's see if we get anything else. Alright, yeah. At least a stack. 12 on him. Jeez. Okay, yeah, I think we'll be fine. Yeah, 6. 12. Well, 18. Using a couple more on rotate as well. So, yeah. Basically like 24, 20, 30-ish, whatever it is. Now we're getting into wee scrap. Okay. See, jumped on. Nice bang. Good start. Sprint on the side. Just instantly knocks and kills him. Okay. Pretty key into Surge now. This is a 3v2. Good safe angles. Pumps the wall. Jumps straight in. This guy's awareness is literally -10. That's a free kill. Somehow this guy escapes. How does this guy get out of here? Wasting splashes in Storm is interesting too. Alright. They just let him get away somehow. I think they probably need to prioritize zone. It is literally pretty max, but it's still relatively rare. Do they have any med mists? They don't have any med mists, so I guess the longer they wait in here, they're going to be wasting some of their splashes. Although there is campfires, like I mentioned already though. Few players next to them getting tagged. You heard the surge going up, so nice. Free kill onto one. FPS missing a couple edits. Got a free body down there too. Timing of his refresh is so easy because like they can extra build into any zone past that, just not the extra mats they have. They're pretty much just capped anyway, so getting refreshes around like 6th, 7th, 8th zones sets you up so well for the end game. You can just tarp for vast majorities of it. Alright, into the end game. See how things go. Running low on mats. They basically just tarped and wasted everything prior to this. Gets a knock into the box. That's nice. He really needs that. And then dies. Okay, okay. Somehow Hero also goes down here. Spray from above. Still have mats. Just hit it straight into their face. Chop straight in. That is a crazy play, I'll be honest. I'm not really sure what's going on there, right? We've got a crazy solo clutch from FKS. He seems to frag out here. Top 10 scenario left. Trying to get the extra loot from his boy. Can't get anything. Only got a single mini to his name. Medkit's down on low. Covers a good amount of space. Team as well. Max damage on the Bosch. Nice. Opposed. That's what his name is. Apologies. Good materials left. He's got the coin, so he can get a little pop-off shield bubble every time he heals. Gets the elim with the next player. Upgrades the pump shotgun. Double mythics in inventory is crazy. That's 0 heals. A little rough for him. Drops out the side. Very, very nice. Use Matt's tarping in. Want to seem like he's more than just a solo. Don't go for that. That's not free loot. Good stuff. Seeing his team down below. Grabbing a nice edit. Those guys seem a little lost. Full piece. Accidental. Nice ramp. And he dies. Okay. Yeah. The one thing about this team that I've seen so far, not very careful and considerate. You know, like running straight into the player's face, editing straight into his face, like panic edits kind of things is what it looks like. Like, you know, if you're watching some of the best players in the world, you're going to see the edit selection in that. You're not just 50-50 in an end game. So yeah, let's move on to OCE, our final region, where there's been some beef and some drama. So the drama here is interesting because you see Resigns, Alex, and Anon are in first place. However, they weren't in first place. Skit's team was in first place, who won the previous season as well. And they got disqualified. Skits was banned. So that means Alex with his previous team may have called globals from the previous season, which means that the globals team from this season, because Alex is potentially already qualified, might actually be Oatly's team with Z-Dog and Gerald. I have no clue. I'm going to look at Alex's team, because he'll definitely be going regardless, whether it's this version of the team or the other version of the team. I'm not 100% sure, as I mentioned. But, yeah, that's kind of crazy. We've got to look at the 19 Elim win that they had the last game, or second last game. In this final game, they actually ended up getting griefed. 2 teams teaming on them and landed on them to make them not win. So, this team potentially should have just won anyway. Hard to say, though. Alright, their team is a Shiny Shafts team, which means that of all 7 regions, if I'm remembering correctly, all of them outside of EU, which was Vanya's team, were a team who focused very much so on gold. Whether it was for black markets or for... what are they called? Vending machines or vending machines. Every single team used a lot of gold. Alright, what's happening here? WK and the contested teams, similar to the Shiny Shafts team on EU, as I mentioned earlier, which was iDrop's team. Spending a lot of their surge strat, just WKing the contested teams around them. This was a reboot. So it seems like this is going to be a little bit of a free lick. Full team in the bush, let's go. Alright, knock onto Skydogs. 3v2. So there's a 1v1 going on right now, and now a 2v2. Jump straight in. Okay, insta wipes out the full trio. So it was interesting, they didn't actually get that much surge from that because they killed them so quick. Alright, we've got them getting into another fight now. Only, you know, a minute or 2 after that as well. Another team who's set up here. And Alex goes a little crazy here. Oh my god, a full team guy in the bush. That might be why. Inta creates 4 boxes. Nice lot of space. The rest of his team starts helping out. Off the walls. He jumps in the back after popping a little shield, helping them out. Not wasting time getting to like full 200 HP like I would. Because a lot of times the pressure is more important. Nice. Okay, save the sweat down. Nice wall to block him in. Get the full piece. Jump straight into the back wall. This guy's also already weak. Toad out. Full spray coming in from the other player. Trying to distance themselves to get towards the solo at the back. Alex already 4 elims. That's impressive, but I'll be honest, you know, they're not fighting Booga here. Hunting down that final solo. There he is. Almost got pieced. Plays things slow. Creates a nice box. Nice wall. The full trio just insta-jumps in. I love how he was slow and patient there and waited until his teammates got close before he then just ran straight through the wall, so he avoids milking. So they all 3 did it at the same time. Alright, goes around the backside. So many boxes. I love the insta-pinch, creating the full side. This is also late. What is this guy doing? OCE moment, I think. Double pickaxe on the wall, gets punished for it. While he continues to drop down, other player starts to dip. He chases. The fact that this is happening in 5th zone is interesting because look how many teams are still alive in this game, but obviously a lot of them are just in storm, congested. There's actually not that many teams around them, which is funny. This is not a fight, and like a fighting style is happening right now that you would really be able to do in a big region or probably in globals either. Like, without getting third party here is insane so far. There is a team now who has just rolled in, but they're kind of like running out in the open. Never would happen. Alex goes full crazy this end game. So we're going to watch from his POV. I want to see kind of how the team structure is, how the team dynamics are, and how he goes crazy, more importantly. Exo, kind of scuffed. Like, I mean, really scuffed going into this. 20 builds, 12 builds, 39 builds. Oatly down. Unfortunate for Oatly. Nice little tart from Alex to get them straight to the front side. Trying to find the body. See if we can get some of those materials refreshed. Goatly doing a good job hiding in the corner. That's a nice refresh. Getting them up to 70 builds already. 800 above surge. No real concern. But yeah, like, their mid-game has been pretty scrappy. But, you know, they're not coming into end-game looking any sort of way stacked whatsoever. It's not like it's been a solid mid-game in it, an early-game strategy, you know? Alex tarping despite top fragging. 22 builds. Still, that one refresh, obviously not really enough to keep them going throughout the rest of the game. Good little pre-edits coming through. Nice, good bang from Alex as well, but again, not enough to actually get an elim. Heal dropped. Anon just jumping out into a solo's box. But again, he's probably going to get siphon mats. Seems to have got a little bit more, actually. 55 builds. Like, I actually had something. Zone pullback. Pretty favorable for them because they were so low on mats already. But again, because the last refresh is not the worst. using chug splashes this point of the game, probably not recommended, because how many they got? They have none left now, and it makes a little bit more sense to use them to triple pickaxe into someone's box if they need a refresh, where all three of them can just pickaxe on the wall rather than just draining them so early, which I don't think is necessarily the best play in the world. But Alex now has the mythic pump. Tarps in front. See what you can do from here. Claiming a bunch of space. Zero, where's the team? Good teamwork. Just to sit and actually be able to have one person spraying, one person holding. Let me. Zone's pulling back again, so their layer is below this. A bunch of people are just dying in storm. Capped mats from a random body dying in storm. I think this should be some of their builds down here, if I remember correctly. No, potentially not. Didn't read that zone correctly either. Somehow they've made this up to a top 3 just by... from, like, nothing. Obviously got a few refreshes in the endgame here. But... zone pullbacks were relatively favorable. And a lot of the mats they got were relatively gifted, I'll be honest. Somehow it's now a 3v3. Fighting for height. Teammate goes down. Alex healing the backside. Jumps down to try and claim front. Claims... I was going to say claims a double. Tries to claim a double. The guy tries to jump up the bat. Nice. Tinker down. Dropped out. Pumps nice at the backside of zone. Plays the siphon time. Has no white, so can't play for heal off. Sitting on the right hand is beautiful. There is the chug jug back there. 220. Probably heal off. Other player is 50, which he absolutely should be popping at this time. Maybe he knows that that's the chug. He got the chug jug. Probably saw it from his teammate's body. Nice pre-fire goes through. Okay, cool. So, what's the synopsis? What's the summary? I'll be honest. A lot of this, none of the small region teams really impressed me in any way. Obviously, I only watched a single game. If I watched much more, there might be stuff they did that was really cool. I'm watching on the slowest internet of all time, so I'm having to skip some of the games through. So maybe there's some cool things that I looked at that I missed. Apologies in there. So can't give. But what I will say is, usually the small region teams very much so struggle at global championships. And nothing that I've seen from the 5 minor regions, Asia, Brazil, well, they're not really minor, but you know what I mean, not the 2 big ones. From Asia, Brazil, Middle East, OCE, or any West. None of the stuff from there was really impressed me to the point where I thought, wow, these are a top 5 caliber team going to an international stage. Whereas, of course, the EU and any central teams, much different story. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Recorded from on top of a shoe in my traveling hotel room. Like the video, subscribe, peace.